see. Hey, Right Riders. Sorry for the delay. Had a little technical issues with YouTube and OBS, but everything's working right now. When it comes to self-publishing books online, no battle seems to rage more than the question of self-publishing versus traditional publishing. Should I self-publish my book or should I find a publisher? Now, some of you may know, I technically am what's considered a hybrid author, meaning that I have obviously self-published books, but also I've recently had a book published through a traditional publisher. So, with that in mind, today I'm going to go over the benefits of each. I'm not going to bother with the pros and cons. I'm just going to focus on the benefits of traditional publishing and self-publishing. But first, I want to ask you, is traditional publishing better or is self-publishing better? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments and in the chat. And you want to stick around because there's one item I'm going to bring up a little bit later that could end up being a little bit controversial. So you're not going to want to miss that. But first, I want to check out the chat and see who all's in the house. I know you guys have been eagerly waiting. Let's see. Just scroll down me. Andy's in the house. Knitting Mommy. Hey guys, thank you so much for being here. The lady writes. Katrina, she is here. And Abby Mason is in the house. Good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on where you're at. Hey, real quick question. Have you checked out the new Self-Publishing Today Facebook group? I'll leave a link to it down in the show notes below, but you can head on over to just simply going to kwheelerbooks.com/group. And be sure to answer the 3 questions that I have set up. They're not trick questions. There's no math involved. But you have to answer all 3 of them in order to get accepted. So, how's everybody doing? And again, let me know. Super laggy for me. Let's see. See, this is some of the issues I was having earlier. Let's see if I do that. Hopefully the lag fixes itself. I only have experience with self-publishing. I think the only difference is that self-publishing gives you more opportunities than traditional publishing because it's more immediate. Yeah, knitting Mommy, absolutely. Let's see. I don't know why. Seeing video. I mean, all my settings haven't changed. It keeps buffering. Let's see. Let's see if this helps. Come on. Yeah, I was, like I said, I was having some issues with YouTube earlier, and I didn't want to bail on it. Let's see. I do see it is lagging a bit. I don't know why. Let's see, Andy says, I do have rain and poor weather. Never had this issue with other streams. Just wanted to case. Yeah, no, it's not just you. I can see it's buffering. I just don't know why. Well, I'm going to keep going and we'll just plug through this. Hopefully it's not that big of a deal. Let's see. I was put off by traditional publishers for time and cost from what I perceived. Yeah, it's. We're going to get into some of the pros, like I said, of both. I will say if this buffering goes a little bit any longer, I might end up having to drop off and start again. Let's see. looks like it might be better now. Let me know. Um, so I wanted to first get started with self-publishing. Now, the pros of self-publishing, and again, the benefits. I don't, because like I said, I'm not doing pros and cons. The benefits of self-publishing, as most of you may know, is that you have full control over everything. Your story, your cover, who you use for editors, who formats it, how it's formatted, and etc. Those you don't have control over when it comes to traditional publishing. Another benefit of self-publishing is no rejection letters or emails. Now, obviously, you still get the rejections when it comes to negative reviews if you get them, but still very laggy between picture and sound, but I can live with it. Let's see. Like I said, I'm trying to... Can't seem to find out what the issue is. Is it blurry as well? Because it looks blurry to me on my end, and I don't know why. Andy, let me know, or somebody else, let me know. Hey, Kevin, glad to have you here. Let me know if it's blurry as well. Real quick. Better now? Okay. Good. Glad to hear. Okay, so again, with self-publishing, another benefit of self-publishing is, like I said, the no rejection letters or emails that you get when you send out your manuscript to potential agents, or if you want to just go specifically directly to the publisher themselves. Well, it's sometimes blurry. I'm sorry. We'll just plug through it. Hey, Kevin, just a tad blurry. Okay. I promise I'm not blurry. Like, I didn't put blurry makeup on, so hopefully it'll work. The next thing is the quick turnaround. And this is, kind of talked about this a little bit in the chat. Such a faster turnaround when you're self-publishing that in comparison to traditional publishing. When you're self-publishing, I mean, between the time you write the book and when you actually go to publish it could be just a matter of days, depending on the length of your book and the content. Now, that doesn't mean to skip the steps. That doesn't mean to skip an editor or anything like that. It just means that because it's going to less people, there's less middlemen, that the whole process is a lot faster when you self-publish. And again, these are all from my own experience. Thanks, Andy. These are just from my experience with, people I've talked to that are in traditional publishing, but also my experience with the traditional publishing that I've done for my book, Mimi's Adventure. The next thing is you get all the royalties. Obviously, because there's no middleman, you don't have to split the royalties with your publisher, because you basically are the publisher. So that's a huge reason why I know a lot of people choose self-publishing over traditional publishing. Another thing that not many people may know is the author copies are going to be cheaper because you're getting it directly from KDP or Lulu or whoever you publish through. It's going to be a lot cheaper than when you buy it from your publisher. Like, for example, when I buy copies of my book from my publisher, I get a 40% discount from the sales. So I basically get wholesale, but I don't get it at cost like I would if I'm publishing it myself with self-publishing. So again, self-publishing, cheaper author copies. And the other benefit, and to me this is the biggest benefit when it comes to self-publishing as opposed to traditional publishing, and I'm hoping to alleviate some of it, which is when it comes to self-publishing, there are plenty of self-publishing resources. Whether it's, on YouTube, you've got me, you've got, Kelly Publish, you've got Self-Publishing with Dale, so many other people out there, Chris Fox, just tons of people out there that, Walter Wayburn, I don't know if he's in the house right now. He gives out great content, especially if you want to see somebody who isn't relying on Amazon. Like, he does all his sales on his website. It's crazy. So those were the benefits of self-publishing. Well, then you may wonder, okay, well then why traditionally publish if it's so great to self-publish? Here is some of the reasons that I have, some of the benefits of traditional publishing. Now, the reason why, and I've said this before, the reason why I decided to self-publish or to traditionally publish is I wanted to be able to give you both sides, not just from a theoretical standpoint, but actually from my experiences. So that was one of my reasons. But the first benefit is you're not alone. When you traditionally publish, you get guidance from people that are familiar with the process. Regardless of how small the publisher may be, they've still been around the block a time or two. They know all the little nuances, especially if you're newer to it, or maybe you've been around the block a time or two, but you still would like some guidance when it comes to certain areas. Traditional publishing may be the way you want to go. On that same note, you have a team behind you, so again, you don't have to do everything. So instead of you being the one to find someone to edit your book, and find someone to do the cover, and find someone to maybe write the blurb for the back of the book, you don't have to find these people. That's what your publisher will do. And so by going the traditional route, you're delegating a lot of it. It's not on you. So basically all you have to focus on is writing your next book. Next, depending on the size of the publisher, you may get an advance. And so for those people who don't know, an advance basically is they estimate how many books they think they're going to sell, or they feel comfortable that they can sell, and they'll give you that amount of royalties up front as what they call an advance. Now, the downside to an advance is if at the end you don't make that amount, like they don't sell that many, you won't see any more royalties until you have reached the number of sales to equal that advance that you got. And that's why they call it an advance. But depending on the size, obviously if you're going traditionally published with one of the big five, you may get $5,000, $10,000, or depending on who you are, you may even get more as an advance. Typically, it's around the 5,000 mark for the bigger traditional publishers. But again, if it's a smaller publisher, you may only get a couple hundred, or you get a couple thousand. You might not get any. But that's another benefit of traditionally publishing. You see that money right up front. The next benefit is it saves you money, again, on the editor, the cover designer, some of the marketing. Like I said, they are, I don't want to say outsourcing it because it depends on their business model, but they're reaching out to those people. You don't have to pay for that. And let me rephrase it. You shouldn't have to pay for that. If you're paying for any of that, that's not a traditional publisher, but we'll cover that in a second. So again, it saves you money on getting your book cover made, finding a good editor. I mean, they've got good quality editors that they reach out to, because honestly, if their editors weren't any good, they wouldn't stay in business for very long. And the next one that is, to me, another huge benefit of traditionally published is there are certain doors that are only open right now for people with either agents or traditional publishers. For example, my wife and I ran the Scholastic book fairs for years at the local schools. And so I have a lot of contacts at Scholastic, at the company. And if you don't know what Scholastic book fairs are, they're the book fairs that many schools will do throughout the school year. And, kids can go in there and they buy books and bookmarks and all the other stuff. And the company that runs it is called Scholastic. Well, because, like I said, because we've ran it for so long, I had some good contacts higher up on the chain, like regional directors and stuff like that. But even with that connection, I could not get my self-published books in a Scholastic book fair, because Scholastic as a whole, they have a rule where you have to have an agent, or you have to be traditionally published. Now that I'm traditionally published, I reached out to those same contacts, and it's actually in the process of being reviewed to be added into the Scholastic book fairs. And like I said, I mean, Scholastic book fairs are huge. And so it wouldn't just be in my area. I mean, Scholastic book fairs are nationwide. And so if I can get just one book in the Scholastic book fairs, that increases drastically the amount of exposure that me as an author and my book in particular will have. So again, that is a huge consideration when it comes to traditional publishing. I do know that some Barnes and Nobles actually, if you want to do like an author visit, they actually require you to have either an agent or be traditionally published. Many of them don't, but some do require that. Now, I do have one more thing I want to bring up. Now, no traditional publishing versus self-publishing books battle would be complete without bringing up the vanity press. And we're going to cover the vanity press, but first I want to check out the chat because I see it's been popping. Let's see. Thumbs up. Glad to have the thumbs up. Thank you so much, Andy. Gonti Murdy in the house. I hope I pronounced your name. Thanks for all the excellent content you provide. What niches and sub-niches are hot in Q4? See, here's the thing. That's a great question. But what I do when it comes to Q4 is focus on what you want to give or what people would give as gifts, for the holidays. I mean, you can go in and do like Google Trends and try to find like what's hot right now. Here's the problem with chasing those niches. If you go in and you just chase whatever's new right now, two things are going to happen. One, depending on how quickly you can turn around a project, by the time you get it out there and it gets active in the algorithm, that trend may be gone. But even if it's not, even if it sticks around for a while, you end up spending so much time chasing those trends that because it's a trend, so therefore at some point it's going to be done, and then that book's not going to sell anymore. As opposed to if you stick with things that what they call evergreen, things that are people are going to be wanting 6 months from now, a year from now, 10 years from now. And so those are the things to focus on. So again, what I do, especially for Q4, is I focus on what people would want to get and give as gifts, as far as whether you're working on books or you're working on shirts for merch or whatever. But that's what I focus on. So I would say first, what kind of gifts would you like to get? Like what things are you interested in? And then find out, ask your friends and your family, and you can just go in and Google popular gifts from last year. What are some of the popular gifts? Just to, obviously you don't want to duplicate what they've done, but just to generate some, to spark some ideas in your head, to just kind of do some brainstorming. So that's what I do for Q4. Great question. Video and audio much better, no lag. Awesome. Thank you, Andy. Thanks for keeping me updated. I appreciate it. That's a great tip for Scholastic. I had no idea. Yeah. I had no idea. I mean, obviously I didn't do this. I mean, when I say we did it for years, we did it probably for a good 10 years that we did it. And we did between 2 and 3 book fairs a year. And to the point where I actually would take a 1-week vacation 2 or 3 times a year from my regular job so my wife and I could focus on it. And I mean, they were always very successful. So, I did it because I enjoy it, and I enjoyed, working with the kids and stuff like that. I'm telling you, there is nothing like seeing a kindergartner, get a book for free, because that's one of the things we would do is, if we raised enough money the first time, then the second time we would give each kid in the school a free book within a certain price range. And so, seeing a kindergartner get that first book, nothing like it in the world. But again, I didn't, and it's kind of like when you go to these Facebook groups, for your niche, you go in there, you do it to help out, you do it because you want to give back, and then later on down the road, you're getting something from it, and in a case like this, a lot of times you get something from it right away, but and that's why I also suggest to a lot of my viewers and people on the Facebook group and just anybody I know that's in the publishing industry, whether it's self-publishing or traditionally publishing, is, go to your local library, and don't go in there and be like, hey, I'd like to do, I'm a local author, I want to do an author signing, I want you to carry my book. Start off by saying, what can I do to help out the library? What can I do? Because those people, not only do they know your city, the people in your city, who their regulars are and stuff like that, and what is really popular in that area, but they'll be able to tell you about conferences that are in the area, and not just for authors but for readers and all that. So they have there's such a wealth of information in those librarians that it's highly underutilized, and it's sad because I mean my local library, I'm there almost daily, and they know me. Like I said, I've become a fixture there. So and that's the way it was with Scholastic, so it just worked out that it benefited me now by having those contacts, but that's not why I went into it to begin with. Does the Scholastic thing work for low content and no content? That's a good question, Andy. I mean, if you can get a traditional publisher to publish your low content, no content book, then yeah, I mean, technically they would still consider it. But I think the hard part is to get a traditional publisher to take on that type of project, unless you can show a history of sales with if you have a brand around it and you can show a history of sales that they can see, okay, that it would benefit them as well, then yeah, traditional publisher absolutely might be interested in that. So good question. All right, so now vanity press publishing. What is a vanity press? Basically, you pay them to publish your book. You end up paying them for the same stuff that you normally would do when you're self-publishing, but you get the support of being traditionally published. So it's kind of a hybrid. I know in general, especially when it comes to self-publishing, vanity press has been given this huge, bad rap, and most of it well earned. Unfortunately, there are a lot of companies out there that just want to take your money, and they'll charge you thousands of dollars. And this is the part where I said might get a little bit controversial. Okay, the biggest difference and red flag is to differentiate between traditional publishing and vanity press is that traditional publisher will never charge you to publish your book. Let me say that again. A traditional publisher will never charge you to publish your book. Now, just because their website says the words traditional publisher doesn't mean they're a traditional publisher. It means that somebody typed that into, when they were creating that page. That doesn't necessarily mean they're traditionally published. Now, that also doesn't mean, there may be ones that say that are legitimately a traditional publisher, because there's small traditional publishing companies coming up all the time, and so you don't want to ignore them just because they're not big or anything like that. Everybody's got to start somewhere. So for example, the company that I published mine through, it's called Pennant Publishing. They're a smaller publishing company, but, and this is where I'm going to get to. Okay, most people, including myself in the past, will advise that you never should pay someone to publish your book. And I've said that, and I've said it numerous times. It's not 100% accurate. Okay, the real advice really should be, you should never have to pay someone to publish your book. Okay. In the past, I've known numerous people who have paid a vanity press to publish their book for them. And just like I've had plenty of friends and colleagues pay someone to format their books or ebooks. Like I said, I've said this numerous times. I'm a freelancer from time on Upwork. I've had people pay me to format their book, to publish their book for them, and their ebook. There's nothing wrong with that. The important part is that you're educated and that you know you don't have to. You don't have to pay someone $1,500 to publish your book. And no matter how much they say, oh, we're going to give you all this, you don't have to. If you decide that you have more discretionary funds than you have available time, then that may be a consideration. 1 second. But again, you don't have to pay someone to publish your book. And that's the difference between, when people say, don't do vanity presses, never pay someone to publish for you. It's really not that. You don't have to. It's not an obligation to get your book published to pay somebody. You can do it absolutely free, as I've shown on this channel and other channels like it. That said, the biggest example or the biggest suggestion I have, and I wish I had a button I could put this all in big screen, on the screen, all caps, but always do your research. Whether you, in anything you do, but especially when it comes to traditionally publishing or choosing a vanity press. If you decide to go the route of a vanity press, check them out. Ask around, ask people in the industry, because even if they haven't traditionally published through them, they may have had experience. I've had experience with a lot of vanity presses that I never worked with, because I did my due diligence, I did my work, my research and stuff, and decided that wasn't the route I wanted to go. That wasn't the company I wanted to go with. And most of all, trust your gut. Your gut will not lead you astray. Okay? If it doesn't sound right, run away. Now, in 99.9% of the cases, you're going to find that you're going to want to stick to either self-publishing or traditionally publishing. But in that rare instance where vanity press makes sense to you, don't necessarily think that it's completely out of the question. And again, this is where my chat may blow up and my comments may go crazy and people may think I'm crazy. But again, there are things that they may do when it comes to a vanity press, including like some of the marketing that they do and stuff like that, that if you don't have the time or resources to do certain things, it may be something you want to consider. But again, do your due diligence, do your search. One thing you should do is check out Ali's, and I don't have their email address, but Kevin, you might have it. Check out their website. They have a watchdog tab, and they have some vanity presses and listed in there, and they're color coded where it says red means run away, yellow means caution, and green means it's okay. So again, do your due diligence if vanity press is something that you may want to do. But again, majority of the time, self-publishing and traditionally publishing is going to be the way to go. Now, one thing to note about traditional publishing, and I know I said I wasn't going to focus on the cons of it, but one thing that I do want to make sure that I make clear is that even when you're traditionally published, you still have to do a lot of the marketing. They'll do a huge launch, and and just like with my book, they did a huge launch, but that only lasts for a little while. You're the one that needs to keep, do your author visits, do your book signings, things like that, to keep your book and yourself in the minds of, and at top of mind for your readers. So again, it's not like a lot of people think that you traditionally publish and basically all you have to do is write and then you don't do anything else. No, you have to write, and then when once the book is live, just like with your book, if you self-publish, you still have to sell. You still have to do the marketing for it. You'll get help. They'll give you some suggestions. They may have some things that they do or that they have done in the past that they, like I said, they can give you suggestions about that they've had good experience with, bad experience. And this kind of goes back to you're not in it alone when you go with a traditional publisher. So those are the benefits that I've seen. So whether you decide to self-publish or go the traditional route, you may be wondering if you should publish under your own pen name. And later on, I'm going to give you a link for that. But first, I want to check out the chat, see who all's in the house, and again, let me know. So, which do you think is better, self-publishing or traditional publishing? Or are you one of those on the fence? You want to be different, and you say Vanity Press is the way to go. Let's see, AllianceIndependentAuthors.org. Thanks, Andy. I appreciate that. Kevin, no, I just do a search to get to them. Yeah, that's what I do too. I really should take Dale's advice and have a bookmark on it on my computer. I go there so often, but yeah, I don't. Let's see. Anybody have any questions? Whether even if it's not about this topic, you have any questions? Like I said, you guys, can you believe that the next time that I do a video, the next time we go live, we're going to technically be in Q4? How crazy is that? That's crazy. Make sure, I see 12 people in the house. See if you guys are, guys have any questions, throw it up here. If not, I'm going to start winding down. So pop those questions in there. Let me know. Like I said, Q4 right around the corner. Technically next week starts Q4. Have you guys been ramping up? I know, Kevin, you've been hitting it pretty hard and heavy. Mixing between. I will say, yes, I've been doing puzzle books. My puzzle books have been doing very well. Honestly, better than I expected. I'm also, like I said, I said this in a previous video, that I am testing out a maze software. Right now, I've made some suggestions to make it better, but it's looking very promising. So I'll probably be covering that in a future video. I'd love to get a book accepted through traditional publisher, but for now, I'm happy with where I am as an indie author. Yeah, and just to be clear, I don't ever see myself stop self-publishing. Yes, it was great that I had this book traditionally published, and chances are the next book in the series will probably go through them as well, depending on what we work out. But it was part of my contract where I said that the next one in the series that they had to look at first to see if they were interested before I self-published it. But that's fine. But yeah, I don't foresee myself ever going completely traditional. I like this hybrid approach. I like the control that comes with self-publishing. I like the freedom that comes with self-publishing. I like that I get paid monthly as opposed to waiting every quarter. I'm still learning, trying to catch up with some legends in the space like Keith Wheeler and Kevin McGrath. Kevin's definitely a legend. I don't know if I'm a legend, but I appreciate that, Andy. Judy Waters, thank you so much for being here. Just got on. We'll listen to the replay. Do you publish puzzle books on KDP and on Ingram to get them into stores? As of now, I do not publish through Ingram. I don't publish. It's hard with the puzzle books. When you're with Ingram, unless you buy the ISBNs, which I honestly have not bought any ISBNs. That's the next thing on my business to-do list, is to buy ISBNs and start working with Ingram. I know, yes, you can get them into store. Now, I have a video where I show you how you can get your own books, even if you did it through KDP, or back in the Create Space days, if you did it through them, you can still get them in stores, in independent bookstores and stuff like that. Maybe you can't get it into Barnes and Noble, but you can get it. I mean, I have my books in over 20 different stores, even in cities and states that I've never stepped foot in. So if you haven't seen that video, you definitely want to check that out. It's spoilers. There's a website that I go to. I do give some tips in the videos, but there's a website, and you can just go to kwheelerbooks.com/bookstores. I think that's the site, and it'll just bring you over there. And it's a list of independent bookstores and not just bookstores. I mean, some are in toy stores and stuff like that. But they're stores that openly accept submissions from independent authors. And so like I said, I've got my books, and it's not just children's books. I got a couple puzzle books in stores. Most of them are the children's books or the young adult books that I have. But yeah, so don't think that traditional publishing is the only way you can get your books into big stores, or going through Ingram is the only way you can get them into stores. Now, yes, Barnes and Noble, bigger stores like that, yes, it is harder. In some cases, it's virtually impossible to get your book in there unless you either are traditionally published or if you go through places like Ingram. The big thing is that people they think it's because it's you get a free ISBN as opposed to paid ISBN. It's really not. What it comes down to is they need to know that they can return books. Ingram allows them, the warehouse, the wholesale part allows them to return books. So a bookstore only has so much room on their shelves. So they need to know that if I buy 6 copies of your book for my store, if in 3 months I only sell 1, I can return the other 5 and get 5 more of a different book to put on my shelves. Whereas obviously KDP and CreateSpace, when that was around, they don't, and Lulu, they don't take, their print on demand, they don't take books back. And that's the reason why you can't get them into big bookstores and stuff like that. So just a fun fact. Let's see. Great content, lots of subscribers. Keep up the fantastic work. Thanks, Andy. I appreciate it. Do they order directly from KDP, or do I send the books to them? Judy, I assume you're talking about the independent, the bookstores. I'll be honest, it was great when CreateSpace was still around. CreateSpace had a place where you can actually set up a discount code, like a wholesale code, and you could give it to them, and I would just send them to that link and give them that code, and then I still got a little bit of a royalty, and they still save money on the book. But now KDP doesn't do that. So yeah, what they do now is they will email me or call me, but most of them do it through email, an order, and then I just go into my dashboard, I select author copies, and then when I go to send it, I send it to their address instead of sending it to my address. So that's how I do it. Typically what they'll do is, and this is something you're going to have to talk with them about, especially to begin with. Some places might ask for a free copy of your book. Typically, in cases like that, what I've done is I've just sent them PDFs. But on a few occasions, I have sent them a physical copy. Remember, if you do that, if you send, if you're giving away copies, and I'm by no stretch of imagination an accountant or anything like that, or a lawyer, but remember, every time you donate something, when you do your taxes, make sure that you account for that. Because that's money that you could have made that you're not. You paid money for that copy, and you're not getting any money back for it, so therefore it's a donation. So keep that in mind as well. But yeah, and what I have is they usually just pay. I have a specific PayPal account just for those orders, and so they just pay me through that. But you can get the Square or any of those other card readers as well, if you want to do it that way. Great question. Let's see. I haven't done much with low content stuff yet. I get focused on writing. I forget to work on the low content stuff. Just finished a novel and am working on a few Christmas novellas the next few weeks. That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, that's actually one reason why I made the conscious decision to put all my writing projects off until January, because I was getting in that same boat. I have the sequel to my novel, and then I have 2 middle grade series that I want to start. Not to mention, spoilers, I am working on another nonfiction book for authors. And, I have the one, Please Don't Beg, How to Get Book Reviews and Keep Your Friends. But I am working on another nonfiction book to go with this, for this same niche. But again, I put all of my writing projects off until January, so that way I could focus on the no content and low content. Mainly right now, I've been focusing a lot on the puzzles. Been working, like I said, with the mazes and making some activity books and things like that. Now that said, and I actually mentioned this in Kelly Publish's video yesterday, that I was doing puzzle books long before I heard of any of these systems. So you absolutely don't need to buy a software or a system to create puzzle books. It's just a matter of, again, the time versus the money. So I mean, like I had books where I did a hangman, and I did tic-tac-toe, and I actually one of the books actually has a custom game that I made up just for that niche. And those were on the dot game, and all those I've done, like I said, long before any of these systems. And ironically, none of the systems that I've seen have any of those types of pages in them. So I still, when I do my puzzle books, if I want to include a hangman, or I want to include tic-tac-toe or anything like that, I still have to go back to my old templates, or just make a new one. And if you guys would be interested in seeing how to make those, how to do like a tic-tac-toe and the dot game, I already did a video on that, but yeah, tic-tac-toe and hangman and stuff like that. If you'd like me to do a video and show you how I make those, obviously I do it in PowerPoint. I can do one of those. I can do a tutorial on that. That's not a problem at all. Let's see, Sean Hibbs, glad to have you here, buddy. Good advice about getting into bookstores without traditional publishing. This is a good topic. I don't hear this topic being talked about a lot. Yeah, there's a lot of misconceptions when it comes to getting your books in bookstores. Like I said, I mean, one of the biggest ones is just that I've heard so many people say, and some quote unquote gurus, and that's why I really don't like to consider myself that, but that they say, oh, you can't get published because or you can't get it in any bookstores at all, or any stores, because it's self-published, and that's not the case. Once you understand why people won't accept it, and you understand that it's because of the whole return policy, then that makes it so much easier on your part to address that ahead of time when you're talking to the owner or manager of whatever store you're going to call. And also keep in mind, especially if you've got children's books or even activity books and things like that, don't just hold yourself in this thing in this mindset where it has to be a bookstore. Again, like I talked about so many times on this channel, think outside the box. I've got my books in toy stores. I've got my books in thrift stores, which a lot of thrift stores are going to be secondhand stores, whatever you call them. It's a little tricky because typically the people that go in there are looking for lower priced items, and so it's hard for me to sell a children's book at $10 at a secondhand store. But so what I do is I charge $5 or whatever. I basically charge them cost, maybe a little bit more, and I make sure that I have some kind of something to direct them to the rest of my books. Because again, especially if you're putting out good content, the important part is to get that first one in their hands and then let them, decide to buy more of your books, and depending on whichever genre you write in. Because I write in many genres, I have a one link that I send them to that basically has all my books. Because a lot of people have more than one kid. So just because they have, they're buying this book for their, second grader, doesn't mean that they don't have a middle grader in, at home or what have you. So, so as long as you know their argument, and this is part of sales in general, which I hate sales personally, but is if you know their pain point ahead of time and you know what their argument's going to be, then you can address it before they do. And then it's like, oh, well, I don't have anything to argue about, so I'll get it. Let's see. Whoop, that just jumped. Let's see. Sean, you're quite welcome. Andy W. Off topic. I love off topic. May I ask where you purchased your website domain from and who does the hosting of your website? That's a good question. The domain I purchased from Google, believe it or not, Google Domains. And so I was just using basically a blogger account. And then I got introduced to this thing called WordPress. And Ava Fails, great lady. And I don't know if you guys I don't know if you're part of the DIY self-publishing course that Dale has, but she's got an entire video or entire course on how to use WordPress, and it's just amazing. So I use WordPress, and yeah, I think that answers your question. I'll check out your video on bookstores. I realize that's not the topic today. That's fine, Judy. The topic of today, I covered that. I'm going to put timestamps in here for the people that are watching on the replay, and so they can watch that content, and then that's what I love about the question and answering afterward, is because there's so many good nuggets that are shared both by me and by others that you can continue to learn more than just the main topic. Andy, I'm not a professional, but watch sales stuff if you're self-fulfilling any orders. Just something I came across a while back, which put me off any wholesale sales avenues. Okay, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. You want to make sure that you take into account the sales tax and things like that. That's a very good point, Andy. The lady writes, Katrina, I'm organizing for the next couple of years. See, you're so much more organized than I am, Katrina. You need to do. Katrina has a great channel as well. She talks a lot about her fiction series, but she actually was doing a interview where she was interviewing authors. She interviewed Dale L. Roberts, and it was a great interview. The lady writes, I would love to pick your brain or watch a video on how you organize, because that's probably one of my weakest points in general. The way I organize my stuff, honestly, is I have the Notes app on my iPhone, and at the end of every night, I literally have a to-do list, and I've got they got little bubbles next to them, and I prioritize them in the order that they really should be done, and then I just click on them as I finish them throughout the day, and then the next night that night I go through, I delete the ones that have already been filled out, and I just start a new list. A lot of them is just continuing the list from the day before, but that's it. Like, this is my organization right here, just that one thing. And I know it's not the most organized, but I've actually found myself a lot more efficient that way. And if nothing else, it actually helps me. Have you ever had a day where you literally sit down at the end of the day and you feel like you've accomplished absolutely nothing? By having this, I mean, it allows me to visually see that I have accomplished something, even though at the end of the day I may feel like I haven't. So it's more of a reassurance as well. Andy, yes, video tutorial for games interiors. Okay, I can absolutely do that. Let's see. I like to do more off the big sites in a few years. Yeah, not sure which program or cart to use yet. A puzzle book video would be great. Okay. Gonti will be interested to see the tic-tac-toe and hangman creation. Okay, so it sounds like a lot of people want that. Knitting Mommy, I'm terrible at organizing. You and me both. I've always been that way. Matter of fact, when I was in third grade, my desk was so unorganized that my teacher actually dumped my desk out on the floor in the middle of class. Nowadays you probably get fired for something like that, but yeah, that was a thing that happened. Broke my heart, and then he made me clean it up. Andy, I'd love to see Keith Wheeler books on later. Spoilers, we're working on it. I need to get a few more scheduled. Yeah. And to be honest, it's completely on me right now. She sent me the scheduler, and I just haven't picked a date yet. I've got a lot of things going on right now, and so I wanted to make sure that it was something that I could, I would give 100% of my attention to. So that's completely on me. I'll take the L for that one. But yes, it's definitely on the to-do list, and it'll be in the very near future. And I look forward to it. Sean, sounds good to me. I do the to-do list and send an email to myself. Yeah. I used to send myself an email, and to be honest, I get so many emails that I would just overlook my own. It's crazy. But yeah, this is something that I literally I keep up all day long. Every time I'll look and see, okay, and obviously I'm working a regular job too, so when I have a break, I'll look over and say, okay, what can I do now? And even though it's, like I said, it's in priority list, a lot of times I don't go straight down the list, because I don't have time to take care of number 2, so I'll jump down to number 4, and that's how, the next day will, I make things, I move things around based on that. Keith's on the plan for right after this next release. I'm happy to talk about my organization too. Yeah, that would be great. That would be awesome. So let's see. Let's see. Hold on. I need to update this. Are you guys getting any more lag? Because I was getting a little bit of lag just then. So you just let me know if there's lag. Looks like still 11 people in the house. Glad to have you guys here. See the chat starting to pop. I like that. Anybody have any more questions? Yeah. Well, like I said, I'll look at that schedule, Katrina, and yeah, we'll get something going real soon. But yeah, I put all my writing things to January. I also plan on taking the week of Christmas. Let's see. The lag is on and off on the video, but audio seems fine. Okay. Sean, great. Just followed Katrina. Yeah, so make sure that you guys, check out her channel. She's putting out some really good content. But yeah, like I said, I'm taking a week off, probably the week between Christmas and New Year's, as far as doing any kind of publishing at all. Like I'm not doing any game books, any activity books, any of that, any writing. Just a way to just recharge my brain. And we'll I've never done that before. Usually I've got, like, on my to-do list, I have, do 10 of these or 2 of these or whatever. And so those tend to be things that get dropped down to the next day. And I do have certain days that, like, Mondays are my research day. That's where I do all my research, whether it's for no content books, low content books, my merch, any of that. I do all of that research on Mondays. And I even do some research on my YouTube, what my topic's going to be, but majority of the time I know my topic, I know the content enough to where I don't bother doing that research on Monday. But New World Order vlogs. Hey friends, glad to have you here. Let's see. Andy says, I'm taking 2 months off from November to January. This publishing gig is hard work. but I'll be watching your videos throughout. Well, I appreciate that. Yeah. I mean, it's tough. Last year, I actually, for those of you who've been around long enough, you may remember, last year I actually took probably a month, maybe two, off of everything, or off of YouTube, so I could focus on my writing and my publishing and everything else. I will not be doing that again, or at least not this year, just because I missed the YouTube videos. I do. I miss doing it. I miss talking to you guys. So that will not be happening. I will not be taking a break from the videos. I mean, I may take a break for a week here and there, but never for like a month or two, like I did last. But ironically, I did, and yet my channel still grew. You guys still stuck with me, and I really appreciate that. The lady writes, I'm taking a break from video right now because of the launch on Tuesday, but I'll be back on the video on launch day. Yeah, absolutely. That makes perfect sense. All right, Sean, I got to go. Absolutely. Glad. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it, Sean. Kevin's taking all of December off, maybe into January for his birthday. I'll be learning the Affinity Suite in that time, however. Yeah, so as long as you're continuously growing, I mean, and that Affinity Suite, absolutely, Kevin, I want to get on that. I mean, I use GIMP a lot. I use Canva a lot. I use BookBrush a lot, which, for those of you who may not know BookBrush, you can use them for, a lot of people think that it replaces Canva, and it doesn't. And I'll do a video on this later. But it's, I use Canva for like my book covers, the ones that I do for my no content books and low content books. But when it comes to like marketing elements, like if I want to do a Facebook ad or any kind of marketing, I absolutely use BookBrush for that. It's just amazing what they have available. And I will be doing a video on BookBrush in the very near future, including having a coupon code for you guys. So if you haven't gotten BookBrush yet, and you plan on buying the premium, whatever they call, I think it's premium is what they call it. You want to hold out because I have a discount code that I'm going to be giving you, and it's only going to be for the first few people. So you'll want to stick around for that. Let's see. Weatherly Morgan, I just found you and subscribed to The Lady Writes. Absolutely great. Affinity Suite, would love your check on the software. Yeah, okay. Yeah, like I said, Kevin knows a little bit more about it than I do. I personally haven't even looked at it yet, but Kevin's been telling me about it for a hot second. I keep putting it off. Let's see. Kevin says to Abby, he likes it. He likes Affinity so far. He just needs to learn more. After December, you'll be canceling Adobe. Yeah, I mean it's drastically cheaper than Adobe Photoshop. Affinity, it's $50 or $60, but it's a one-time fee as opposed to the Adobe Suite where you're paying monthly, I believe. Yeah, Sledge Painter, thank you for being here. Just chimed in and said that Adobe charges monthly. Yeah. Brand new to KDP here. Do you have to have a title on your cover when uploading to KDP for journals featuring only landscape photos? Yes. Whatever your title is has to be on your cover, and has to be legible. And by legible, I believe it means I believe it's like an 8-point font or larger. That said, it says it has to be on your front cover or on your spine. So depending on the thickness of your book, how many pages are in it, if your book is thick enough, I usually say, KDP says 101 pages or more. I usually like to say about 130. But anyway, you can put the title of your book on your spine, and then your front cover is completely clean. You can do that. Your subtitle and your author name do not have to be on the cover, but your title does. See Andy. Adobe's great. If you're an investor buying their shares, monthly is the way to go for most of these software services. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, from a business standpoint, yeah, monthly makes the most sense. And even if you're starting something out, the great thing about monthly is it's typically going to be a lot cheaper. And so if you just want to test the waters, it doesn't cost you as much. Like, for example, the DIY self-publishing course, Dale has monthly subscriptions. And so instead of paying whatever he's charging right now for the full, the unlimited, the full amount, you can just pay $9.97 a month or $19.97 a month, or the $39.97 I think is the one where you get everything. But again, it's a month, so you go in, you absorb what you want to absorb, and then you cancel whenever you want. And if you want to come back, because he's always adding new stuff in there, you want to come back 2 months later, do it again. So it's monthly subscriptions makes a lot of sense. But when you're comparing it to something that's $50, $1 or one-time fee, it's kind of hard to argue. Let's see. Abby Mason just chimed in, said Affinity is $50 for the app. Okay. I toyed with it, but it's a lot different. Okay. Let's see. Going back and forth. September sales are low. What do you think? Typically, a lot of it's going to depend on your niche, but yes, in general, typically September sales are going to be lower. That's one thing that I usually will advise people, and again, I did a video on this too. But if you don't like the ups and downs when it comes to your checks, to your sales, a good way to round that is to find different niches that are hot during different times of the year. So, so obviously pretty much everything sells during Q4. And when I say everything, I mean, I can't guarantee that you're going to sell every book or that typically you're going to sell more in Q4. What I mean is things that might not sell the rest of the year could still sell during Q4, because that's when people are buying gifts. And so, if you've got some obscure book out there that isn't drawing flies, hasn't sold at all, it may speak to this one person who wants to buy it as a gag gift or whatever. Which, by the way, gag gifts are great gifts for the holidays. So keep that in mind. I don't know if you want to consider that a little niche tip, but if you can do some kind of book that's that can be used as a gag gift, that can get you some sales. But yes, typically September is going to have lower sales. So what I'll do is, like I said, I have niches where they're hotter during the first quarter of the year. If you've got planners, for example, planners are going to be hotter towards the for 2020, the summer of 2019 through probably the end of the year, usually just before the end of the year. That's when the planners are going to be the hottest, because people are buying it for the next year. Maybe going a little bit into the first quarter, you might get some more sales. But then come February, most people aren't going to be buying a calendar for 2020. So that's just an example of a niche that is hot during some quarters or some months and not so hot in the other ones. So so keep that in mind. That's what I do to kind of keep my sales as steady as I can, is just providing content in different niches that have different hot seasons. Let's see. All interesting. Okay. Glad you thought that. Sledge Painter. Weatherly Morgan. I think for anyone starting new, affinity is the way to go. It's those of us who have spent years developing Adobe skills who really struggle with it. Yeah. I Most of the people that I know that just will not even consider something other than Photoshop are usually people who have used Photoshop for other, like their regular job. Like they've been using it for years, and so it's kind of hard to. It's not so much you don't want to teach an old dog new tricks as, why learn it if I already know this inside and out. And that's kind of the way I was with GIMP. I mean, I don't know GIMP completely inside and out, but I've been using it long enough to where I feel comfortable in it. But what I've heard about Affinity, if it's going to make my life easier, and that's what it all comes down to, especially when you're part-time publishing, is that you need to be as efficient with your time as possible. So if it's going to save me time, I'm all for it. Kevin McGuire, the last few weeks have been crushing me. Books are starting to pick up again, though slowly. Good to hear. I know you've been working really hard on getting a lot of the puzzle books and no content and low content books out, as well as you're working a lot on the merch. I've sold about 5 or 6 pop sockets outside of Q4. I will be honest, pop sockets have not sold for me. And I say that. I mean, I have sold some here and there, but yeah. I mean, 5 or 6, maybe I've sold that many in the year. But yeah, it's just to the point where I just stopped focusing on pop sockets. Let's see. I keep wanting to do more gag gifts things, but I'm always at a loss of what. Yeah, that can be. That's definitely the hard part is coming up with ideas. Here's one thing you can do. So instead of, I always say, to find niches, ask your friends and family what they're interested in, whatever. Ask them a different question. Ask them, what is one thing that just drives you nuts? What is one thing that, aggravates the crap out of you or whatever? And let that, when it comes to gag gifts, let that kind of marinate and try to come up with some ideas that way. Just jumped up. The lady writes, Andy says, I use Pinterest as my go-to for gag gifts. So many funny things. Yeah, absolutely. Pinterest, don't sleep on Pinterest. I've actually seen quite a bit of success with Pinterest, thanks to a course that I took from Ava Fails. We talked about it earlier, but yeah, she did one on Pinterest, and I'm not doing super great as far as like number of views, but I think I've got I think I get a little over 10,000 or 11,000 views a month on Pinterest. And the key for Pinterest is to make sure that you're using good images and that you're not only selling your stuff. I would say only about 10% should be your own things. So like, for example, I have a folder, what do they call it? I don't know. Anyway, on a board, that's it. I have a board for children's books. And yes, obviously my children's books are in there, but I also have tons of children's books from other authors. Both books that I grew up with, like Dr. Seuss and those kind of things, as well as people that are children's book authors from my Facebook groups. I sent them, a message, and I said, hey, if you'd be interested in having, your book on my board, let me know, and I put those on there as well. So that's something that I did, and I'm a member of the Amazon Associates program, so I just used my associates address for it, and so that way I'm getting a little bit of kickback, minimal percentage, but yeah. So again, that's the thing with Pinterest, is make sure it's not all about you. Let's see. Kevin McGuire, this old dog is money motivated. I hear you, buddy. I hear you. Weatherly Morgan got a jet. Glad to have you here, bud. Glad you could stick around. I appreciate it. I appreciate all my viewers. One of the cool things about Affinity is the personas. You can use designer stuff in Publisher and vice versa. That's good to know. That's good to know. Andy's asking Kevin, when does Affinity package usually come on sale? It's funny that you said that because Kevin and I were just talking about that today. He just answered it. Black Friday, they usually have something. Let's see. Lost video, but great content today. I'm sorry to hear that. You guys, can you see me now? Yeah, I do see it plugging away there. I do apologize for the, I don't know what the issue is. We don't have bad weather here, so I don't know. We'll figure it out. What it looks like, does anybody have any more questions? Well, again, like I said earlier, whether you decide to self-publish or go the traditional route, you may be wondering if you should publish under your own name or should you use a pen name. And yes, this even goes for no content and low content books. Well, you're in luck because I've queued up, obviously not for the live people, but I've queued up a video where I cover exactly whether you should use a pen name or not. And again, I'll include a link to it here, and I'll include a link to it in the show notes. Does anybody have any more questions? All right, well, looks like until next time, I'm Keith Wheeler, and remember to write right.